Lila Grayson, a life that shines, tested by fire. Lila Grayson's world shimmered with the brilliance of global business ventures and opportunities most could only dream of. A poised, accomplished woman, she thrived in the fast-paced rhythm of international deals until a single, reckless comment from an airport officer threw her life into chaos. In the crowded bustle of an Atlanta terminal, amid the drone of travelers in the oppressive heat of a late summer day, an unprovoked insult struck like lightning, igniting a firestorm of outrage within her. What followed was a bold choice, born of a racing heart and steely resolve, as she reached for her phone and dialed her powerful father, an act that would unravel a confrontation, expose ugly truths, and set the stage for a fight far bigger than herself. Real-life stories bring you Lila's riveting journey, a tale of one woman's stand against systemic bias. From a moment of public humiliation, she forged a defiant call for respect and justice. Every beat of her pulse carried the weight of vulnerability and unyielding courage, pushing her to confront not just an officer's arrogance but a flawed system that too often excuses it. As her story unfolds, you'll see how a single, daring phone call became a spark for change, a moment that redefined her day and could reshape countless lives. Stay with us as this extraordinary saga of resilience and reform takes wing. A day that began with unease. Lila's morning started with a subtle, nagging tension, an offbeat rhythm that hinted at trouble ahead. By the time she reached the Atlanta terminal, the air was thick with the clamor of hurried footsteps, muffled announcements, and the faint buzz of anticipation. She stood near a restricted access zone, waiting for a colleague, her mind drifting to her next meeting. Then came the glare, a sharp, accusing stare from an officer patrolling nearby. "Move along," he snapped, his voice cutting through the noise with a condescension that hit her like a slap. For a split second, Lila froze. Her mind reeled, disbelief crashing against a rising tide of anger. The sting of his words dredged up echoes of past slights, moments when she'd been dismissed or diminished for no reason other than someone's unchecked bias. But this time, something shifted. She wouldn't shrink away. "I'm waiting for a business associate," she replied, her voice steady but laced with a quiet edge. Inside, her heart hammered as she wrestled with her options, let it slide or push back against the casual abuse of power. Each ticking second felt endless as she fought to hold her ground, determined not to let this moment define her. Standing firm against intimidation. The situation spiraled quickly. The officer's dismissive sneer morphed into something darker, threatening. His partner joined him, and together they loomed over her, their presence a wall of authority. "You're trespassing," he barked, his tone icy and unyielding. "Comply, or you'll be detained." He didn't ask for her credentials or pause to listen, just assumed guilt and doubled down. Lila's pulse surged, memories of prejudice she'd faced before mingling with the raw burn of being singled out in a sea of onlookers. But instead of retreating, she made a choice that would change everything. Her trembling fingers gripped her phone as she dialed a number she rarely called in moments like this, one tied to influence and protection. "My father's on the line," she said, her voice soft but firm, carrying the weight of unshakable resolve. She knew the name alone would shift the air in the room. The call that turned the tide. Her father's voice came through the receiver, calm and commanding, a steady anchor for her frayed nerves. "I'm aware of what's happening," he said, his tone radiating quiet power. "Let me handle this." As he spoke, the officer's posture faltered, the hard edges of his hostility softening into reluctant deference. The shift was palpable, a fleeting victory that left Lila with a bittersweet taste. Relief washed over her, but it couldn't erase the sting of being reduced to a public spectacle. Yet beneath the surface, a deeper realization roared to life. This wasn't just about her. It was about every person who'd been belittled, dismissed, or humiliated by authority run amok. As she stood there, whispers and glances from the crowd swirling around her, her mind raced. She replayed the officer's sneer, the baseless accusation, the moment her call forced him to back down. This has to change, she thought, her eyes narrowing with newfound purpose. Her personal ordeal was no longer just hers. It was a rallying cry, turning pain into purpose. In a quieter corner of the terminal, Lila found a moment to breathe. She leaned against a wall, her thoughts a whirlwind of anger, resolve, and clarity. Memories of her upbringing flooded in, her mother's gentle lessons on fairness, her father's unwavering stand for integrity. Those values had shaped her, and now they fueled her. "I won't be silenced," she whispered to herself, the words of vow etched into the stillness. Later, in a hushed meeting with senior airport officials, Lila recounted the encounter with precision and raw honesty. "What I faced was more than a misunderstanding. It was degrading and unjust," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor of lingering hurt. The official shifted uncomfortably as she laid bare how a snap judgment had escalated into harassment. Every word she spoke was a testament to her strength, a demand for accountability that refused to be ignored, a fight for something bigger. As an investigation unfolded, Lila's transformation deepened. The incident, though searing, had awakened a fire within her, a purpose she hadn't fully grasped until now. In conversations with colleagues and officials, her introspection shone through. We need policies that protect everyone, no matter who they are, she argued during a tense debate on reform. Her empathy balanced her pain, painting a vision of a future where dignity wasn't a privilege but a right. Even as resistance flared, some defending the officer's actions, others brushing it off as routine, Lila pressed on. Let my story be a wake-up call, she urged in a quiet exchange, her voice soft but resolute. No one should endure this. Her fight wasn't just for punishment, it was for a system that valued fairness over blind power. And then came an unexpected moment. The officer, once so rigid, approached her. I'm sorry, he murmured, his voice subdued, eyes averted. The apology stirred a tangle of emotions, gratitude, wariness, a fragile glimmer of hope. Thank you, she replied, her tone measured, forgiving yet firm. It wasn't enough to undo the damage, but it hinted at the possibility of change. A legacy of courage and hope. Lila emerged from that day not as a victim, but as a force, a symbol of resilience for anyone who'd ever been silenced. Her journey, raw and unflinching, became a beacon for justice and equality, rippling far beyond the terminal's walls. Reflecting on the confrontation and its aftermath, she saw how each challenge had sharpened her understanding of courage and accountability. What started as a personal battle had grown into a collective call for dignity. In quiet moments, watching travelers rush by, Lila found peace in knowing her stand had sparked dialogue and reform. The fire in her eyes as she walked away from that fateful day lingered, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope can take root. This is a story of strength, of transforming pain into power, and of one woman's refusal to back down. If Lila Grayson's journey moves you, share it. Let it inspire others to stand tall.